Hi, welcome back. I'm Tally, and today let's talk about all the media I consumed that is not book related. So, for those of you that don't know, I am a big horror film fan, and I actually do watch a lot of films and a lot of TV shows alongside reading. In January, I read 18 books, which I have already done a roundup on. I will link it. And I also watched a few films. I watched 5 films to be exact. So let's discuss them. So I started on the 3rd of January. I watched Mind, Body and Spirit. This was a Shudder exclusive, I believe, off the top of my head. And it was directed by Alex Haynes and Matthew Miranda. This, I believe, was like a low budget one, and I think it did so well with what it was working with. So we follow a woman who moves into the house she's inherited from her grandmother, who she was very estranged from. Her mum doesn't like the idea of her being there because her mum has a very abrasive relationship with her grandmother, and she moves there and she decides she's going to start a YouTube channel sharing like yoga and tips on how to have a more that girl life. And so the film is all found footage done as if it's for her YouTube channel. And while she's doing this, she uncovers a room and some books, or a particular book that was her grandmother's, and it has countdown to cleanse your spirit kind of thing. And she's like, she's going to do it on her YouTube channel and learn more about her grandmother and her grandmother's like Slavic roots and all of these like customs that her grandmother, she thinks, is passing down through her book. I gave this a 3 star. I thought it was really interesting. I thought it was very well done. Like the idea of doing it as a found footage for a YouTube channel was brilliant. Watching our main character kind of spiral was great. There was like one clip with some really dodgy CGI, but apart from that, I would say this is very well done for what they did within their budget. And I think it was such a good discussion on like colonialism and how customs and cultures get kind of cherry picked and then bastardized for the Western world. And I thought this was a really good film in which the lens in which to explore that. And yeah, and I love found footage. It's one of my favorite horror subgenres. There were some scenes that kind of forgot it was meant to be a found footage film, and you just had to like just be like, yeah, okay. But apart from that, I thought this was really good. I would watch anything by these directors in the future to see what they come up with next. On the 5th, I watched Abigail, which was a film that came out last year, and I was really anticipating it. I do not watch trailers for films because they always ruin too much the story, and unfortunately this is one of those ones that did that, because the thing that should have been the twist is spoiled in the trailer, and because it was spoiled in the trailer, people were talking about it all over the place. So the thing that should have been a big like gagged moment, everyone knew about it going into the film, which I think ruined a lot of the film. I just think like the disservice the marketing did for this film, it just cannot be overstated. And I think that this film would have done so much better if they'd managed to keep their traps shut in marketing, basically, and not ruin their own film. I gave it a 4.5 star. I absolutely loved this. I think the acting was really strong throughout by all of the cast. Dan Stevens, he had no business being as good as he was in this. I really enjoyed his character. I really enjoyed his portrayal of his character. The film was over the top. I didn't like the prosthetics for the teeth that we used, but apart from that, I really liked it. There's loads of blood used, which is always the sign of a good film, a good horror film. And yeah, this was really enjoyable. I wish I'd been able to experience it without having it ruined for me, basically. I then watched The Platform 2, which is on Netflix, and I love the first Platform film. It's such a good commentary on wealth and wealth hoarding and how society punches down and conditions us to punch down. And I thought it was just so well done. And even like the concept of people being on these, like people signing up to be on these platforms, and then, you know, the potential of being starved to death the lower down they are, it made sense in the universe of the film. The second film, I think, missed the mark. I think it was missing some of what made the first film so good. It didn't answer any of the questions that were outlined from the first film, and it didn't have its own interest. Like, its internal story to me wasn't interesting enough to warrant not giving me more to understand the universe, if that makes sense. Like, I understand the idea of in a world when people are punching down, you're going to have cults spring up, or groups of people spring up, and like almost like a religion that decides it's going to be in charge, even though all they're doing is being in charge of like the little umbrella below them, and the people above are still in charge. So I do like that, but I do just think that it missed for me, unfortunately, which is a shame. The visuals were really good. The main character was dumb, or the main character made some dumb decisions. I don't know, I feel like the first film was just, it set out to do what it did and it did it well. And the second film, I feel like maybe they were trying to be a little bit more clever in it, and they didn't quite pull it off. And instead, I think they just frustrated a lot of the audience, or at least me as an audience member. I will watch another one if they do another one, though. Okay, I then watched The Substance. This was a film I was dying to watch last year. Finally got around to seeing it. It was 5 stars. It was 5 stars. It was... I cannot explain how good this film was. So we have Demi Moore, who has basically come out of retirement to do this film because she knew this film had something very important to say, and say it did. So she plays I can't think of a better term, but like a washed up celebrity. She is someone who has done very well for herself in her career, but some people above her have decided she's too old and they want to replace her with a younger model, basically. And she can see that it's happening, and she finds out about this like new kind of secretive drug that if she takes it, she effectively gets a younger body double, and then from that point on they get 7 days each of being like alert and alive, and then they swap. So Demi Moore's character, I think she's called Elizabeth, she will like be herself in her body for 7 days, and then she will basically go to sleep for 7 days whilst her younger counterpart steps up into the role. And the discussions this film has about women's bodies and the expectations of them, and the degradation of our bodies. And you see like both actresses, Demi Moore and Margaret Qualley, who plays like Sue, who is the younger version of Demi Moore, the younger version of Elizabeth. They both have full frontal or full everything nudity, and I have to say, I have been craving women's bodies being shown in a way that's not for titillation and not for horror, because we only see women's bodies being used for sexual purposes, or to sex up a scene, or as the horror, because it's an old naked lady. Oh my god, the horror. And this film did what I have been craving, and I really appreciated it. Honestly, this whole film is like an ode to the woman's body, and I just loved it. I absolutely loved it. It's very low on dialogue. It's very high on the staging, like the set design, the colors that are used, the clothing that's used, the soundtrack. It's all so good, and it's it lets the visuals and the sounds do the talking for you. And then the ending, when it goes off the deep end and so much blood is used, fabulous, absolutely fabulous. This is a body horror. It has body horror elements, and this is one of those films that I will recommend to women who are talking nastily or judging other women's bodies. I'm going to recommend this film without context, and that's that, really. Good luck. And then finally, I went to cinema with my son. I took him to see Sonic the Hedgehog 3, which he was excited to see, and like, this is slightly disappointing. I do think that Jim Carrey's character, who plays Doc Ock, having him play two characters, and then they did like a I really liked the first Sonic film. I've not seen the second one actually, but I watched the first one with my son and I really liked it. I feel like this one was like talking down to kids, like they were a bit dumb. The whole way through, all I could think about was Spy Kids. Spy Kids, they do it right, okay? Like the Spy Kid films, they're really good. They're entertaining. They don't talk down to the kids. The storyline's interesting, the plot's interesting, the twists are interesting, and it's enjoyable for all age ranges. And this film wasn't the same, I don't think, and it is a shame because it did have some really good things to say around family and found family, and how being blood related to someone doesn't trump like the found family aspect of life, or a really good thing to dive into, especially in a kids film. But yeah, I do think I think what it is for me is I really didn't like Doc Ock's granddad in it. It was just silly. Those bits were just silly. I know you say it's for kids, but they were just overly silly. I don't know. It just, my son laughed, so he loved it. So what do I know? Hey, for me that was 1 star. I won't watch it again with him. I won't watch it. I'll watch the first one again. I've watched it many times with him. I will not watch this one again, probably not. The fourth one's gonna have Amy in it, so I will watch that one. But yeah, so they are the 5 films I watched in January. In terms of TV, I am making my way through Criminal Minds, and I have reached a point of episodes I haven't seen before, so I wasn't 100% sure where I got up to previously before diving in, but I think I got up to season 5 previously. And in January so on the 1st of January I was on the season 2 episode 21, and I watched through to season 7 in January. Really enjoying it. There's a lot of episodes that I think do themselves a disservice by just being, you know, like by not intentionally going for a part 2. So some of them wrap up far too quickly, and it doesn't feel like they've had enough time to have a good conflict going on. But I watched some of my favourite episodes, the ones I remember a lot, and really the ones that stick with me. So I've rewatched them. I also rewatched pretty much all of Archer, which I love, except the 2 seasons they don't have on Netflix. For some reason they're missing 2 seasons, which is very frustrating. Oh, and also I haven't watched the last season of Archer. I've not finished watching it all the way through. I get to like a certain episode and I'm not done. I don't like the character that's been brought in to like replace Lana. She doesn't work for me, so I keep not watching that season. So I'm a huge Archer fan, but I have not watched that final season. So yeah, that's where I am. That's what I've been watching in January. Have you watched any films? Let me know any films I should be checking out in February. I really wanted to go and see Nosferatu. I was planning on going to see it as a birthday gift to myself, and I just never got around to it, and that is no longer in a cinema. This always happens to me. It's really hard for me to fit it in around work and around my kids, and then I always miss it, and I just have to wait till it comes out on streaming at some point, which is disappointing. But since I had kids, I'm just not a cinema person anymore. I used to go to cinema for everything, and now I just rarely do. I also find it to be an expense that I just can't really justify, because I would rather spend that money on books. So yeah, I just have to wait for Nosferatu to come on streaming, which I really wanted to see on a big screen, but it is what it is now. I do have quite a big TBR in February, so we'll see how much I balance films and TV and books. But yeah, that's where we are at the moment. Let me know any films you've recently watched that you loved. If you don't have anything to say but want to let me know you are here, drop a film emoji, the little film camcorder thing, in the comments. And thank you for joining me today. If you missed it, I have previously done the books that join my bookshelf in January and my January reading roundup. So please come check them out if you haven't already. If not, make sure to like this if you liked it, subscribe if you wanna, and I will see you soon. Bye friends.